Simple Father's Day Pale Ale. All right, today we are making a simple pale ale. Now, normally making beer, it takes all kinds of steps. It takes boiling and sparging and mashing and boiling and all kinds of things. Some of which I'm not even sure what they mean. But this is a simple pale ale, and we're going to use liquid malt extract. We're using Breeze CBW Pale Ale Pure Malt Extract. It's a liquid malt extract, and Cascade hops and water and yeast, and that's it. So let's get started. First thing we need is a pound of the liquid malt extract. This is very thick and very sticky stuff. Got my scale under my pot. You need a pretty big pot so that you don't have a boil over problem or burning, but mostly so you don't boil over. This stuff does tend to want to do that if you're not careful, but just get this opened up, maybe. It is like molasses. All right, we need 1 pound per 1 gallon, and we are just doing a 1 gallon batch. See how thick that is? Boy, that's just like molasses. And what we're going to do, once we get this in there, we're going to add half a gallon of water, and then we are going to bring it to a boil, and we are going to add half of our hops. We're using Cascade hops, and we're going to boil for 20 minutes, but at 15 minutes, we are going to add our second addition of hops. Each addition is about 0.2 ounces. It's about 5 grams. Okay, we are at 1 pound. Actually, we're not there yet. It would help if I had my reading glasses on. There we go. We're at not quite there yet. We're at 10.5 ounces. We need to go to 16. It is hard to control. It does not want to stop when you want it to stop. Don't suppose I need to be perfectly exact, but each one of these jugs is 3.3 pounds, so you could get three 1 gallon batches out of this. So we'll have to make some more sometime. We'll start with one 1 gallon batch and see where it goes. Okay, we are at 16 ounces, 1 pound. Let's get that last little drop out of there. There we are. Now we just need to get this to stop. Like I said, sticky and hard to control. We're just going to have to get a little messy here. We'll set that aside for now. Okay, and then like I said, we're going to add half a gallon of water. We're going to use a gallon total. We're just going to start with half a gallon, and that way, and we don't need to boil the whole gallon at once. Just want to get this LME. Whoa! I never said I was a clean cooker. That's all right. It's just water. Anyway, we're going to get this up to a boil. Actually, we're just going to, we're going to put in half of it, bring it up to a boil, add our hops. Then we will add our second addition of hops the last 5 minutes of the boil for a total of a 20-minute boil. And then once that's done, we're going to add the rest of the water to help bring that temperature back down. We want to bring it down at least 100 degrees Fahrenheit. I'd like to be a little lower, but we'll shoot for that. Yeast tends to die at too high of temperatures, like 120. So we want to, let's take it off the scale. Done with the scale. As I said, it's very thick, so we just want to stir it for a while, try and get some of that dissolved. While we boil it, the rest of it will dissolve, but we want to just try and get some of it dissolved before we get started. So once we are done with the boil, as I was saying, we will add the other half gallon to help bring the temperature down. We will put it in an ice bath. Basically, put it in my kitchen sink with cold water and ice, the whole pot, to bring that temperature down. We don't need to use a circulation pump or they make all kinds of fancy tools to help bring the temperature down. It circulates tubing throughout the must to help bring it down more quickly. I'm not in a big hurry. I just put it in the sink and some ice water, and we'll bring that temperature down. It'll probably take 15-20 minutes to cool it down, and then we'll get to the next step. But now we're going to move to the kitchen, and we're going to put this on the stove and bring it to a boil. We'll see you in the kitchen. We've got this on the stove. We've got it on high. We're going to start to bring this up to boil. You need to make sure you stir it constantly. That you don't want it to burn. It will burn real easy. So once we get it up to a boil, we'll set our 15-minute timer and add our first hops. So we'll just wait till this comes to a boil. We're going to be using, for our yeast, we're going to be using Safe Ale SO4. That's a good low alcohol volume yeast. It's an ale yeast, so we're making an ale, we're making a beer, so that should work well for us. Another reason we have such a big pot is sometimes when you add the hops to the boiling wort, it tends to want to foam over, so we have plenty of room to allow it to foam up if it wants to, and not foam over. These are the hops we're using. They're, as I said, Cascade hops. They have kind of a citrusy, berry, fruity type of flavor to them, or it adds those flavors. Again, we're making a pale ale. I kind of like the pale ales, lemon ales and raspberry pale ales, things like that. This should work nicely. These hops should work nicely with this particular brew. In a normal ale or brew fermentation, they also use grains, barley or wheat, to add to the wort. We're not using any grain this time. This is a simple liquid malt extract pale ale. It won't be quite as complex as some of those other stouts and wheat beers and things like that, but we're trying to make it simple this time and see if we can do this without all kinds of steps and time and complexity. So we're just going to do this simple pale ale. Let's see where we are on that. We should be getting close to a boil. $198, pretty close. We'll be there in just a second. What the hops do, the hops have they play different roles, and some recipes call for 2, 3, maybe even 4 additions of hops. Some additions are for adding bitterness to the beer, others are for flavor, and another for aroma. Sometimes they use different kinds of hops during the different additions. We're going to do just 2 additions. One for, okay, we're boiling here, so we're going to add our first addition of hops and start our timer. 15-minute timer. As I was saying, the hops have different roles depending on when you put them into the boil. We are doing 2 additions. The first addition is to add bitterness to the wort, to the beer, and the second addition will be for aroma, and it'll just be the last 5 minutes of the boil. So just 2 additions to make it simple. All right, we're just about coming up on our 15 minutes, the first 15-minute boil. And so we are going to add our second addition of hops. And we will boil, we'll boil for that last 5 minutes. And this last addition is for aroma. The hops will add that hoppy aroma to it. So we'll boil another 5 minutes and then we'll cool it down. All right, we're coming up on the end of our 20-minute boil. 15 minutes with the first addition of hops, 5 minutes with the second. So we're going to remove the heat and we are going to add the second half of our water. This will help bring the temp down, bring our volume up to the gallon that we're shooting for. And we'll take a quick temp here before we put it in the ice bath. We're at 112. We could technically add this to the fermenter and add the yeast, but I want to cool it down a little further. I want to get it down to at least 100. So we'll get it into the sink with some ice water and we'll be back. All right, we've got the temperature of our wort down to about 85 degrees, so that's well within tolerance of the yeast. So I've got a strainer and cheesecloth, and I realized I didn't have a smaller strainer, so I've got a pan because I have a feeling I'm going to make a mess. But we're going to get the wort into our pitcher, and then from there we'll get it into our fermenter. Let's see if we can do this without making a huge mess. We want to use the cheesecloth and strainer to catch those hops. We don't want the hops in our wort, and hence the strainer and cheesecloth. They'll catch the hops. Pretty much turn to mush, but we still don't want them in there. We'll just take our time and try not to make a huge mess, and keep the hops on the strainer and on the cheesecloth. Got a little too fast there. Now the hops tend to clog up the cheesecloth, and then it runs over past the cheesecloth. I wanted a bigger piece of cheesecloth, but didn't have a bigger one. For some reason, that's all I got left. So, all right, we're gonna have to try and get this to strain through there so we can get the rest of this in. Just kind of wait, move it to the other side where there wasn't as much volume. There we go. Now we're getting there. Got just a little bit left here in the bottom. You can see there, all that green, that's the hops. You can see why we don't want that in our brew. It's not St. Patty's Day. We don't want green beer. All right, we're just gonna let that strain through there a little bit. Maybe try and help it along without making a mess. Should have used a brew bag maybe. That might have worked better. Bigger at least. All right, I've gathered up the corners. I think I've got it all contained within the cheesecloth. You don't really want to squeeze it. You just want to kind of let it strain out on its own. Looks like we're going to come up a little short of a gallon. It's all right. We do with what we got. Once we get this strained off, we'll take a gravity reading, see where we're going to be. According to the label on the LME, we should be at 1.035. It says 1.035 per pound per gallon. So we have a little less than a gallon. We probably won't quite hit that mark, but we'll see what we get here. Okay, we're going to just put that over here. I think that's about as done as it's going to get. And we can take this off. Get as many drops as we can. Good thing I had the pan. We kind of ran over a little bit here. All right, let's put this aside. Okay, let's take a gravity reading. All of our tools, including our pitcher and our strainer, our fermenter, they've all been sanitized in the Star San solution. I've got the bucket right off camera here. But let's just take a reading and see where we're at. Got a nice golden brown color so far. Okay. Again, we don't need to worry about oxygenation. Um, at this point, the yeast will need the oxygen to create their colonies and start the fermentation process. So let's just take a reading here. We are sitting at, I can get on the right scale here. Oh, we're a little higher, probably because we're not at a full gallon here. But the reading is at 1.04, we're going to call 1.040. So that will put us a little bit higher than we expected, but we're about 8 ounces shy of a gallon. We could add more water. It would simply dilute it. I don't really care if we get a full gallon. That'll probably make 16-ounce bottles or so, something like that. But okay, let's put some of that into our fermenter. I'm going to put half of it in, then we'll put our yeast in, and then we'll rinse the funnel and the yeast down with the rest of the wort. All right, here we go. Let's see here. Always want to put a little gap in your funnel, between your funnel and your fermenter, so that it doesn't gurgle and bubble all over. I forgot to get a piece of paper to make notes. I'm gonna have to do that. I always want to keep notes, because I will forget the gravity reading, the date we started, all those kinds of things. So, all right, let's put our yeast in. Again, like I said, we're using Safe Ale SO4, and we're just going to use the whole packet. We wouldn't have to, but I think we'll go ahead and use it all. It's okay. I tend to generally use whole packets. I just think I will give the yeast every chance they can to do their job. So, all right, so yep, there's yeast in the funnel as expected because it was wet. So we'll just rinse those down with the rest of our wort. Because it's a beer, we call it a wort, not a must, like we do with wine or mead. It's just what they call it. So we'll add the rest of this in here. Okay, so we are significantly below a gallon. I don't like all that headspace. I think we're gonna try and add about 16 ounces. That'll change our gravity reading, so we'll take another one, but I'm just gonna grab another 16 ounces of purified water and we'll add that to it. So I suspect we came up less than a gallon because of the boil process. We boiled off a significant amount of the water. So we're just going to add some, just using purified drinking water. I had a couple bottles sitting around. So this is 16 ounces. Yep, that should get us pretty close to a gallon. We're up past the shoulder now, so the headspace isn't too bad. That's acceptable. But of course, we've diluted it, so we're going to want to take another gravity reading. Of course, you want to mix that up because we want that thoroughly mixed throughout, otherwise you won't get an accurate reading. So we'll just give it a swirl here and get it all mixed together so we don't have any water on top and wort on the bottom. All right, let's go ahead and take another gravity reading. Another reason to use a whole packet of yeast. I'm going to lose some in the baster and some in the cylinder. That's okay. It doesn't take a whole lot, but we hedge our bets by using the whole packet. I'm going to say I planned it that way, but hopefully you believe me. Okay. Yeah, I'd say we are not floating quite as high this time. Get rid of some of those bubbles. All right, now we are at 1.03. I'm going to call it 1.034. Okay, according to the label, 1.030. So we're pretty much right on. We can get a rough estimate with the same hydrometer of what our alcohol by volume will be. We look at the other scale on this, and it is saying we should be, okay, where are we? At about just under 5%. Actually right at 5%. So that's a pretty respectable pale ale. So I am not mad at that. All right, let's get this in the sanitizer. Let's get this back in the wort, in the fermenter. Don't need to be careful about the pour. I just don't want to pour it all over the place. Doesn't matter if we get oxygen in there. We actually want some oxygen in there. All right. All right. So now all we need is an airlock. Put some sanitizing fluid in the airlock up to the fill line. Make sure we keep all of the oxygen and bugs and beasties out of there. I always stick the airlock in my bung before I stick it on the fermenter so that I'm not jamming the fermenter or the bung all the way down inside the fermenter, because it'll never come out. All right. There we have our simple pale ale wort. So we'll let that set. I'm guessing maybe a week. We'll check it in a week. We'll watch the airlock. It's already got positive pressure going on there. I don't expect it'll start bubbling for a little while, but we'll check back in about a week. All right, it's been 3 days, but the airlock activity has slowed down quite a bit. And last time we checked the gravity on this, it was 1.008. So we're going to just take a peek, see where we're at, and see if it's done. Get our tools out of our sanitization tub. All right, let's get this off. This is our pale ale. Let's see where we're at. It's got a nice golden brown color. A lot like pale ales I've had. So a lot of krausen on the top of the fermenter, which is okay. That's normal. There's a lot of lees on the bottom too, which is also okay. All right, we're going to have to look through a lot of bubbles here, but try and get some of those bubbles to dissipate. Give it a spin. Grab my glasses. Kind of hard to see with all the bubbles. We're at 1.008. 1.008. It has not moved in the 3 days since we took a reading the last time. I'm thinking it may be done. So we're going to put this back on and maybe we just take a little taste, see how it is. Put this back in the fermentator, in the sanitization bucket, and we'll take a taste. Let's take a little taste of this and see what it tastes like. I'm just going to take that out. Stop fumbling with it before I break something. This might be the first time I've drank a beer in a wine glass. Smells like beer. Now it's going to be flat. I mean, we haven't carbonated it, so we'll just try it, see what it tastes like. Tastes like a pale ale. I think we are there. I don't want to let it ferment. You might ask why I only waited 3 days. I want some of those yeast to be active enough to ferment for the carbonation process, which will bottle and then will carbonate. And we don't want to let it sit too long, or those leaves may, or the yeast may give it up, So we're gonna rack this to a pitcher, and then we'll rack it to some swing top bottles, and we'll get it carbonated, and we'll be having some beer soon. All right, so we'll get set up for racking. All right, we are ready to rack our beer to a pitcher and then to our swing top bottles. So put that up there, and let's put that on just a minute while we get our auto siphon connected. I am going to leave the cap on the bottom. There's a lot of lease. This is our first rack, so I'm hoping the auto siphon works. We had a little trouble with our last brew, and the new auto siphon has not arrived yet, so let's hope that this works. If not, we're going to have to pour, but we'll give this a shot. I'm going to put this down in about halfway as usual, just like we do with the wines and the meads and the ciders. This has all been sanitized in the sanitization tub. Hey, we may be in business. We have got a siphon going. That's good. And we've got 8 swing top bottles sanitized and ready to go. I don't know if we'll get all 8. We may be a little short, but that's okay. we'll do what we can. So this has been, as you recall, we are using the liquid malt extract. We're not using any grains, so it's not going to be a real complex beer. Just a simple pale ale, but that's okay. Uh, I am in wheat country. I spoke with one of my buddies who works in the harvest fields, and he has said he's going to get me some original Kansas wheat. So we may make another beer and make a wheat beer. All right, I'm going to have to tilt this so that we can get as much as we can out of there. There is a pretty healthy sediment layer on the bottom, lees layer. Looks pretty solid though. We're not getting a lot of wispies in here, so that's good. Our beer should be pretty clear. Even if it's not, it'll settle to the bottom, and we'll just make do. We'll drink it as is. Now, one disadvantage to these narrow mouth fermenters is you can't really get the auto siphon in the corner, so we're going to have, that's okay. We're going to have a little loss, but you always do. Boy, this certainly smells like beer. We're doing something right. Can't wait to get it carbonated and into the bottle bunker and see how it tastes. All right, there we go. Got that all. And this, you can see there's a pretty good lees cake on the bottom, and it is pretty solid. It's kind of cool looking, but we'll set that aside and work on that later. I'm going to pull this hose off. All right. You know what? I'm not ready to pull that hose off. I guess it's too late. I already did. What we're going to do now, we are sitting here right at, so we don't have a full gallon. We have just under 112 ounces. So we'll get 7 for sure, 7 bottles. And it'll be a 7-pack. You ever had a 7-pack? I know. Keep my day job. Don't become a comedian. All right, so we're going to get rid of this thing since our auto siphon isn't working. And before I forget, which I almost did, again, we have just a hair under 112 ounces. We have 28 grams of sugar. We have our priming sugar, and we're going to mix it into our pitcher, and we are going to stir that up, make sure it's good and stirred, and then we will transfer to our swing top bottles, cap them, and get them in the bottle bunker. And there should be enough yeast in there. We're going to drop just a little bit of a pinch of yeast in each bottle, just to give it a little extra insurance. But let's get the priming sugar in and get that stirred up. So I'm going to use part of my now defunct auto siphon, because I forgot to grab a stirring utensil, but this will work fine. We just need to stir that kind of gently, but we need to get all of those granules of sugar dissolved so that it is evenly distributed amongst the entire, all 6 bottles. I'm estimating we'll have 112 divided by 16 is roughly 6 bottles. Might be just a little shy, but we'll try and keep them even. Like I said, once we get this transferred, once the sugar's all dissolved and mixed up real good, and we get it transferred to the bottles, I'll put a pinch of yeast in each bottle just to give it a little insurance for the carbonation. We'll put those in the bottle bunker, let them sit for a week or two and carbonate, and we'll have a pale ale. I'm going to grab my yeast. I'm going to use Fleischmann's active dry yeast because I had some in the fridge, an open packet, and we don't really need much. We are just carbonating. We're not trying to build a yeast colony. We're just trying to get that a little bit of fermentation to generate that carbon dioxide that carbonates the brew. So we'll use the bread yeast. Just a pinch is all we're doing. And again, it's insurance. There should be enough active yeast in the beer already, but yeah, I like to hedge my bets a little bit. So I can still feel a little bit of the granules of sugar on the bottom, so we need to stir some more. We want to make sure it's all dissolved evenly amongst the entire beer, the entire pitcher of beer. Okay. Yep, still a little bit on the bottom there. I could have taken some of the beer and put it in another container and dissolved the sugar there and then poured it in. This works too. It just takes a little longer. Just need to be patient and keep stirring until it's all dissolved. I think we're good here now, so we are going to set that aside. We are ready to pour. Since our auto siphon is dead, we're going to pour. Again, it's not recommended. I'm going to scoot over closer to the towel. I'm going to need to do some research and see if pouring is as bad an idea for beer as it is for wine and mead. I'm assuming it is. I'm assuming oxygen is not good for beer. It is a fermented beverage, just like wine or mead. Oxygenation is generally what it does is causes some off flavors. It affects the aromas and the colors of a wine. But I didn't have a spare auto siphon, and like I said, my replacement isn't coming till tomorrow. So, and my neighbors are out with ATVs, so that's what you're hearing there. Having a good old time. Again, I think we should get 6 full bottles here. Why am I going all over? What's happening here? I never claimed to be super clean. I am kind of a messy guy in the kitchen. We are in the outdoor kitchen, but still a kitchen nonetheless. This bottle is being troublesome. Okay. This one's going to be better. Trying to pour gently, minimize that bubbling and gurgling. If my mom were here, she'd say, "It smells like a brewery in here," which it kind of is. That one I got a little full. That's all right. I heard that a lot when Mom got up in the morning. Not a lot. I didn't drink all the time. Something about the way I'm holding that funnel. Trying to leave a gap between the funnel and the bottle mouth so that it allows the air to escape and doesn't cause that gurgling and bubbling, but for some reason I'm just pouring all over my wrist. So we'll try it this way. Alright, well, maybe we'll add a little to a couple of these that look a little low. Trying to get them all even. I'm a little bit weird that way. Maybe I have a little OCD. I got a little wild with that one. I might just have to drink this a little bit. There's not a whole lot in there. Let's see how much we get out of that. I'll put it in the 7th bottle and maybe I'll drink it. Not fond of flat beer, but hate to waste it. So we get 7 bottles. I can't do math. All right, 2, 4, 6, 7 bottles. I'm going to take, like I said, just a pinch of yeast in each bottle to help with that little bit of fermentation to carbonate. Again, it is just a pinch, probably not even needed. Go away, Mr. Fly. Okay. Got our 7 bottles. Got our insurance yeast. We are ready to transfer these to the bottle bunker. Put it in the bottle bunker because we just want to be safe in case there's, a crack on one of the bottles or it gets a little overactive in that final fermentation for the carbonation process. We don't want beer and glass flying all over the house. So we'll get those into the bottle bunker for a couple of weeks and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, those are looking good. Nice. Oh, they smell good. They look good. Let's try one. Oh, they're gonna be fiery hot. Oh boy. Tender, juicy, sweet, just a little bit of spicy. Those are awesome. Smoked barbecue burnt ends, brisket burnt ends. Can't beat it. All right, let's give this simple Father's Day Pale Ale a try. We're out at the lake for Father's Day. Let's give it a try. We've carbonated it. Hopefully we've got some, hey, we got some good carbonation there. Let's get a glass poured. Oh yeah. Good beer head on that. Nice golden amber color. Let's give it a try. Smells like beer. It's really good. Nice simple pale ale. That's the pale ale. As always, thanks for watching Smoking and Drinking. Remember to like and subscribe. And Prost!